town in the northeast of Scotland. And Stonehaven Judo Club was established in 1982 by Ian Guthrie. In its 30 years it has gained many achievements, including the first female black belt in the north of Scotland, the youngest black belt in the United Kingdom, 190 gold medals in the Scottish Championships, with 2 girls winning the event 7 times. The first time the Scottish Sports Council gave its Coach of the Year award to judo was to club founder. But in the early days of the club, things were very different indeed.
I started the club in 1982. We started off in the community centre and we were there for about 6 weeks, and then we went to the beach pavilion. And the beach pavilion, the reason that was empty because it was so cold. It hadn't been refurbished or any work done to it for years, and when we arrived there it was ideal for our purposes because we were able to put the mats down, judo mats down, and leave them down. And when we arrived there was only one electric heater, and you had to put a penny, an old penny in the heater. We also operated the lights, so you had to put this penny, magic penny in 25 times, and they kept the lights on for approximately half an hour. The heating was a 3-bar electric fire to heat an entire hall. So the conditions were really, really Spartan. Stonehaven Judo Club has won many competitions, well the juniors have. I mean myself I've won a number of competitions, but I probably get more satisfaction from seeing the kids. A lot of the kids have joined the club age 5, and it's particularly rewarding when you see them at 16 winning the Scottish Championships. And to date we've won 196 gold medals. Some of the kids have actually won the Scottish Championship 8 times.
Budokai
Slight variation in Nippon Seoinage. Note the position of the left foot when it goes back. The hands are doing all the work, driving the person forward, and my head doesn't move. In actual fact, we produced the first lady black belt, which was Jessie Hutchin. Jessie started judo and progressed through the grades, and she was the first one to get the black belt in the northeast of Scotland. In actual fact, she had 3 children, and 3 of them did judo, and 2 of them ended up black belts.
Budokai University Junior Section. Budokai would like to welcome the famous Scottish Judo Club, Stonehaven, and their coach, Ian Guthrie.
Stonehaven Judo Club probably had more of the world top judo fighters in that small club than any other club in the UK. For example, we've had Brian Jacks, Neil Adams world champion, Okano, Olympic champion. The recent count, we've had 6 world champions and 5 Olympic champions, including Nakamura. So as far as the club is concerned, it's featured on Grampian television no fewer than 15 times. I started judo when I was 19 years of age in Glasgow. In those days, as far as martial arts were concerned, there was only one martial art, and that was judo. Karate was relatively unknown, unlike today, where kids have enormous choices of different martial arts. But as far as judo was concerned, the standard in judo was very, very high throughout the United Kingdom. And as far as the Glasgow club was concerned, when I started with my coach, I used to train 7 days a week, twice on a Sunday. And I did that for something like 18 months. And that's when, in actual fact, I got my black belt, which was a record in those days. In fact, it still stands today in Scotland. And when I got to first Dan, I realised I'd gone as far as I could in the club I was at, and I then moved to London. And I moved down there to the Wrenchton Judo Academy, which was one of the top clubs at that time in London, and it was actually started by Kisaburo Watanabe, one of the top Japanese judo fighters. He actually got to the finals of the All Japan Championships in Japan as a middleweight. But the thing to remember about Japanese competitions, in those days there were no weight categories. So Watanabe, being 12 stone 8, was fighting guys at 22, 24 stone, and he was actually throwing them for full points. And he actually reached the finals twice on two different occasions. And the second time, Watanabe was convinced he'd won, and the referee refused to give him the full point because he said he was too young. So Watanabe, in a fit of pique, decided to leave Japan, and he ended up in London teaching judo. That's where I first came across him. But at that stage, as far as judo was concerned, it was the first time that we'd ever actually met any top Japanese. Most of the top Japanese that we actually met in London, they'd all retired from competitive judo. But in this instance, we had a top Japanese fighter at his peak. And when he started to practice, we'd never seen anything like that before in the UK. It was absolutely devastating. And when you practice with Watanabe, he threw you so hard. It was actually a speeds recorded of up to 60 miles an hour when that guy threw you onto the mat. So you had to know your break falls really, really well. Tai-toshi, slight variation in tai-toshi, rather than come in conventionally and sticking the leg across. Useful is if you can step to the side. The person is not expecting the tai-toshi, but from there, look in the direction you're going to throw. And from here, all you have to do is put the leg in front. Then I moved to the Budokai. The Budokai Judo Club in South Kensington was the first judo club in the UK. It was actually opened in 1918. And Watanabe was a resident coach. But it was a very exciting time for British judo, because at that stage Brian Jacks was just beginning to come onto the scene. Brian was current European champion, and then we had people like Angelo Parisi. Angelo was 15 years of age when he joined the Budokai, and when he was 18 he won the Senior European Championships. In actual fact, he beat one of the top Russians in the finals of the European Championships. He threw him in 10 seconds. And that's where everybody started training really, really hard. And then we came to the time in the Budokai where probably it was at its peak. The judo was then reintroduced into the Olympic Games as a permanent fixture. Prior to that, it had been as a demonstration sport in the Tokyo Olympics, purely because judo was the home of Japan. And in 1972, everybody trained to make the Olympic squad. And I was very, very pleased and proud to say that I actually made the squad myself. When training for the Olympic selections, I ended up going along to an army camp, Woolwich Arsenal, and I used to go out with 2 PTIs, and they used to take me to the assault course and run me around there for about 3 hours. At that stage it was a 2-mile run to the assault course and obviously 2 miles back. But the last 2 miles you had to really step out, and you're talking about, you know, army PTIs who are 100% fit, and they used to take it in turn running with me to get to encourage me to sprint. This is after you've already been round an assault course 3 times. And then we used to sprint full built into the main hall, and the front doors were open and you would run in and everything was set up for circuit training. And it took 20 minutes. I always remember as soon as you come racing into the hall, first thing you had to do was 3 sets of 25 press-ups. And you were actually recovering as you were doing these, such was the level of fitness. But everybody was doing this type of training. Like so, Brian Jacks, he was training with one of the top Olympic swimming coaches. Everybody had taken different methods of getting this magical level of fitness for the 72. And it obviously worked because of the 72 Olympics of a 5-man team. We'd come back from the Olympics with 3 medals, 1 silver and 2 bronze. It was the most successful Olympic team in the whole of the 72 Olympics. Well, the Budokai team, what actually happened is we had a 5-man team and we used to travel all over England, and we used to do it every Saturday. And out of the team there was actually 6 guys, and one of us we used to take turns each at being captain. And in a 2-year period we won every competition that we went into. And in this particular photograph on the left is Brian Jacks. And second to him is a guy called Inman, who's OBE. The guy on the right was John Hindley, who's 5th Dan. John now trains, well, he doesn't train, he's a banker in Dubai. His claim to fame was he won the junior championship 5 times. Above him is myself, Ian Guthrie, and to my left is Malcolm Hopkinson, who trained in the Budokai. He's also trained in Japan. We move up, next guy next to me would have been Kevin Crickmar. He was the youngest 3rd Dan in the UK, 18 years of age. So you'd probably better remembered for the Mars Bar advert. It was filmed for years. And next to him is Angelo Parisi. Angelo Parisi started at 15 in the Budokai, and what he did was he went on to become a French citizen, and he trained with and fought for the French team. When he was there, he won the European Championship 11 times, and he's one of the few guys in world judo who's taken a gold, 2 silvers and a bronze from 4 different Olympic games. And the guy next to him was Tom Brennan, who was a very, very skillful American judo player, and he trained in the Budokai for about 6 or 7 months, and he was actually co-opted onto the Budokai team because he was so skillful. And next to him is a guy called Sid Hoa, who's 8th Dan. He trained in Japan for about 4 years, but that was reckoned to be one of the strongest Budokai teams ever. Once I'd won quite a few competitions, the British Judo Association, to try and assist with your training, they supplied you with very lucrative coaching posts. And in my own case, I ended up teaching in the Royal Soldiers' Daughters' Home in Hampstead. An interesting school that. It was children, mainly girls. The parents were serving the armed forces, and they went to be at this special school, and I taught judo there twice a week. Is to get this. rail. Very powerful technique, and if you can reach the situation when you're actually doing it, rather than just step into the throw, try and get a reaction by quickly pulling in one direction. What invariably happens as you pull to the person will react in the opposite direction, and that's what allows you to throw the person. You'll find that when you're practicing judo, the more experienced and fitter the opponent, as soon as you use a reaction, the guy will move, and it tells you exactly where you're going to be strong in the defence. Everybody who practices judo, it's always their dream to go to Japan. Unfortunately, the majority of people, they cannot afford to go to Japan when they're actually training full time. And I was fortunate to be able to go to Japan once I retired from competitive judo. And when I arrived there, I immediately phoned up Watanabe, who I hadn't seen since his days in the Budokai. It's been about 15 years. So Watanabe duly turned up, and we renewed our acquaintance. And the one thing that we did really get on well with, I took my son and my friend Donkey. Him and I started judo on the same day, and in fact we got our black belts in the same day. And when Watanabe came along to the hotel, he hadn't seen me for 15 years or so. So we sat there and he said, "What would you like to do?" I said, "No, but we're just happy to meet up with you, and we'll have a few meals and stuff like that." He says, "But you need to let me organise something for you." He said, "I'll organise something different." So we said, "Okay, fair enough." So we got a phone call the following morning at breakfast saying that you'll be picked up about 10:30. So we had no idea where we were going. So this taxi duly arrives and Watanabe's in it. So we ended up at the Emperor's Palace. So he takes us into the palace. Well, first of all, we had to sit and wait for the security to be cleared. And up comes this big guy, Mr. Noida, who's 6', and he is actually the head of security for the Emperor's Palace. So we were duly introduced to him, and he took us on a conducted tour of the palace grounds. Now this is where the Japanese themselves aren't allowed. So we were taken in, and he took us to this dojo. This is a judo hall, which is over 160 years old. It's one of the oldest in Japan. So he took us into the grounds of the Emperor's Palace, and when we arrived there, it was absolutely beautiful. And we watched the gardeners cutting the grass with scissors on their hands and knees. And as soon as they heard a noise with us, they heard our voices, they disappeared. And there was total silence, and then for probably about a minute, 2 minutes, and all of a sudden these birds started singing. It was absolutely enchanting. And we said to him, we've never heard birds like that. He says, oh no, he says, they're all hand-picked and reared for the Emperor's gardens. And then he took us to a huge garage, and in the garage there was motorcycles, complete with machine guns. And he said, these are the security guards. He says, we can reach every part of the Emperor's palace within 4 minutes. And then he introduced us to the guards, all of them high-ranking judo fighters, martial art experts. And then he took us into this dojo, which was 160 years old, and it was absolutely incredible. And there's a painting on the wall of the Emperor, his 2 children, and the head of security. And one of the things that it's by law in Japan for the Emperor's children, they must do 2 martial arts. And the current children do judo and archery. So we were introduced to we'd already met the head of security, who also taught them judo. And they then took us in to meet the archer. The archer being a 7th dan graded, and he brought out, he was there in full, actually practicing with the bow, and he allowed us to fire a few arrows. And he would explain to us that the particular arrows that we were using were over 300 years old. And I said to him, it wouldn't be very, very precious, and you're not frightened in case they would break. And he says, no, he says, we've got hundreds of them. And he opened up a huge sliding door, and there was thousands upon thousands of arrows. And I said, you never use modern arrows? He says, no. He says, these were used by experts. He says, and our aim is to try and emulate some of the feats that was done by these ancient archers. The Stonehaven Judo Club has achieved so much in its 30 years that my wish as I bow out is to see it to continue to excel, to continue to thrive, and above all to continue to grow.